Module 1. The Moral Framework. Morality, a concept deeply ingrained in human society, encompasses principles and values that guide individual behavior and shape the fabric of communities. Understanding the meaning and origin of morality provides insights into its diverse interpretations. This course explores various perspectives on the meaning of morality, its sources, and its relationship with law and religion, while also discussing theories of morality and moral development. Morality. The meaning of morality varies across philosophical and cultural frameworks. From a consequentialist perspective, morality is concerned with the outcomes and consequences of actions. Alternatively, deontological approaches emphasize adherence to ethical principles and duties. Virtue ethics emphasizes the development of moral character and traits. These differing perspectives highlight the complexity and multifaceted nature of morality. A statement that describes the quality or function of inanimate objects is known as a non-moral choice. An example of this is when deciding to buy a house in the city or the country. The sources of morality have been a subject of debate among scholars and philosophers. Some propose that morality originates from rationality and reason, asserting that individuals possess an innate moral sense or intuition. Others contend that morality is shaped by cultural and societal norms, reflecting a collective understanding of right and wrong. Psychological and evolutionary perspectives suggest that moral behavior is a result of socialization processes and natural selection. Alasdair MacIntyre said that virtues and morals should not only teach a person how to act, but also how to feel. Law and religion. The relationship between morality and law is intricate and multifaceted. While both address notions of right and wrong, morality extends beyond legal frameworks. Morality often serves as a foundation for the creation of laws, as legal systems aim to uphold ethical principles and societal values. However, laws are not always synonymous with morality, as they can vary across cultures and change over time. For example, the American view on human rights might not match the views of other countries. Each culture has the right to define ethical standards according to their belief system. However, their definition, although accepted, is not necessarily right or ethical. Instances where laws conflict with personal moral convictions or societal ethics highlight the distinction between legality and morality. Religion has long been intertwined with morality, as many religious traditions offer moral frameworks and guidance. In religious perspectives, morality often derives from divine commands or teachings, linking ethical behavior to spiritual beliefs and values. Religious texts, such as the Ten Commandments or the Five Pillars of Islam, provide moral guidelines for adherence. However, morality is not exclusive to religious contexts, as secular ethical systems exist and are based on humanistic values, reason, and empathy. Kohlberg's theory of moral development. Lawrence Kohlberg's theory of moral development presents a stage-based model of how individuals develop moral reasoning. Kohlberg proposed 6 stages of moral development, categorized into 3 levels: pre-conventional, conventional, and post-conventional. Each stage reflects an individual's moral reasoning capacity, from a self-centered focus on rewards and punishments to a universal ethical perspective. Kohlberg's theory highlights the progression of moral reasoning throughout an individual's lifespan, emphasizing the importance of cognitive development in moral decision-making. Ethical egoism. Ethical egoism asserts that individuals ought to act in their own self-interest, maximizing personal well-being and happiness. This perspective suggests that one's own welfare takes precedence over the interests of others. Ethical egoism differs from psychological egoism, which posits that individuals inherently act solely out of self-interest, even if their actions may appear altruistic. While ethical egoism advocates for pursuing one's own interests, psychological egoism provides an empirical claim about human behavior, suggesting that self-interest motivates all actions. Ayn Rand's rational ethical egoism expands upon traditional ethical egoism. She argues that rationality should guide individuals in pursuing their own self-interest, emphasizing the importance of reason and objective reality. Rand posits that ethical egoism promotes the pursuit of long-term self-interest, respecting the rights and interests of others while refraining from coercion. For Rand, self-interest is not limited to immediate gratification but encompasses the pursuit of personal values and flourishing. Utilitarianism. Utilitarianism is a consequentialist theory that assesses the morality of actions based on their overall consequences in terms of maximizing happiness or well-being. Classical utilitarianism, championed by Jeremy Bentham and John Stuart Mill, posits that actions are morally right if they produce the greatest amount of happiness for the greatest number of people. Rule utilitarianism, a variation of classical utilitarianism, focuses on adhering to general rules that, when followed, maximize overall well-being. According to utilitarianism, the ends would justify the means. A good outcome can justify a bad action that was done to attain it. Consequentialist theories face certain challenges. Critics argue that ethical egoism can lead to moral relativism and disregard for the well-being of others. It may also fail to account for the inherent value of moral virtues and principles beyond self-interest. Utilitarianism, while valuing overall well-being, can neglect individual rights and may encounter challenges in accurately measuring happiness. Moreover, both theories may struggle with the subjectivity of evaluating consequences and predicting long-term outcomes. Carol Gilligan's Care Ethics and Gender Differences. Carol Gilligan's Care Ethics offers an alternative to consequentialist frameworks. Care ethics emphasize the significance of interpersonal relationships, empathy, and care in moral decision-making. Gilligan suggests that traditional ethical theories, predominantly developed by male philosophers, neglect the ethics of care typically associated with women. This theory highlights the importance of compassion, empathy, and maintaining relationships as fundamental moral values. Non-consequentialist theories. No consequentialist theories of morality focus on the inherent nature of actions and ethical principles rather than solely considering their consequences. Special attention is given to Immanuel Kant's duty ethics and W. D. Ross's prima facie duties, discussing their advantages and disadvantages within the broader framework of non-consequentialism. Non-consequentialist theories, also known as deontological theories, prioritize the intrinsic nature of individual actions rather than their consequences. Immanuel Kant's duty ethics, a prominent act-no-consequentialist theory, emphasizes the moral worth of actions based on their adherence to universal moral principles. According to Kant, morality is grounded in rationality and the categorical imperative, which requires individuals to act according to principles that could be universally applied. Non-consequentialist theories highlight the importance of moral duties, principles, and intentions, providing a framework for moral decision-making beyond the realm of consequences. They emphasize the inherent value of certain actions and the concept of moral autonomy. However, act-no-consequentialism may encounter challenges in addressing conflicting duties or determining a universal set of principles applicable in all circumstances. Additionally, the emphasis on strict adherence to moral rules may not adequately account for contextual considerations. The theory of prima facie duties proposes that moral principles guide actions rather than focusing solely on individual acts. W. D. Ross's ethical framework offers a rule-based approach that acknowledges the existence of prima facie duties, which are morally binding unless overridden by other duties. Ross identifies various prima facie duties, including fidelity, non-maleficence, justice, and beneficence, which provide a flexible framework for ethical decision-making. Non-consequentialism allows for a more nuanced approach to moral decision-making, as it recognizes that certain duties may be outweighed by other conflicting duties in specific situations. It offers flexibility and adaptability, enabling individuals to consider various factors and prioritize duties accordingly. However, the determination of which duty takes precedence can be subjective and context-dependent, potentially leading to inconsistencies in moral judgments. Furthermore, the reliance on prima facie duties might lack a clear hierarchy or a comprehensive set of rules applicable to all moral dilemmas. Virtue ethics. A philosopher is a person who studies ethics and believes that beliefs, propositions, and ideas should be critically examined. There were many famous philosophers throughout history. Two very well-known philosophers are Aristotle and Confucius. Aristotle's virtue ethics is rooted in the belief that the goal of human life is eudaimonia, often translated as flourishing or living a fulfilling life. According to Aristotle, virtue is the key to achieving eudaimonia. Virtues, such as courage, temperance, and justice, are not innate but are acquired through habituation and practice. Virtuous actions are guided by the mean between extremes, known as the doctrine of the golden mean. For instance, courage lies between recklessness and cowardice. Confucius, a Chinese philosopher, also advocated for virtue ethics. He emphasized the cultivation of ethical qualities to create a harmonious society. In Confucian ethics, virtues such as benevolence, righteousness, and propriety are central to moral conduct. These virtues are learned through the observance of rituals, respect for authority, and the cultivation of filial piety. Confucius believed that individuals should strive to become junzi, or noble persons, who exemplify virtuous behavior and serve as role models for others. In virtue ethics, vice refers to negative character traits and habits that hinder moral development and detract from eudaimonia. Vices are seen as deviations from virtuous behavior and include qualities such as greed, cowardice, and dishonesty. On the other hand, virtues are positive character traits that enable individuals to live a good and fulfilling life. Virtues contribute to personal flourishing, social harmony, and the cultivation of moral excellence. They encompass qualities such as wisdom, courage, compassion, and integrity. While both Aristotle and Confucius emphasize virtue ethics, their approaches differ in certain aspects. Aristotle focuses on the development of individual character traits through reason and habituation. His framework is more individualistic and centered on personal fulfillment. In contrast, Confucius highlights the social dimension of virtue ethics, emphasizing the role of ethical behavior in maintaining harmony within relationships and society. Confucian ethics prioritize social roles and responsibilities, such as filial piety and respect for authority. Absolutism. Absolutism and relativism represent two contrasting philosophical perspectives that shape our understanding of truth, morality, and cultural norms. Absolutism asserts the existence of absolute truth, implying that certain principles and values are universally valid and applicable in all circumstances. Absolute truth is seen as objective and independent of individual perspectives or cultural contexts. However, the concept of near truth recognizes that human understanding is limited, and our interpretations of absolute truth may vary. Near truth refers to approximations of absolute truth that are subject to interpretation and refinement as we acquire more knowledge and understanding. Relativism, on the other hand, contends that truth and morality are subjective and contingent upon individual or cultural perspectives. Moral relativism asserts that ethical principles and judgments vary across individuals or societies, with no absolute standard for right or wrong. Cultural relativism extends this idea to encompass broader cultural norms and practices, suggesting that different cultures may have distinct moral codes that are equally valid within their respective contexts. Relativism acknowledges the influence of subjective factors, such as personal experiences and cultural background, in shaping perspectives on truth and morality. Propositions. Different types of propositions play a role in discussions of absolutism and relativism. Analytic propositions are statements whose truth or falsehood can be determined through logical analysis, such as mathematical equations. Moral propositions, on the other hand, involve ethical judgments and assessments of right or wrong. External sense propositions refer to empirical claims about the external world, which can be verified or falsified through observation and evidence. Internal sense propositions encompass subjective experiences and states of mind, such as emotions or personal preferences, which are not objectively verifiable. Connection between moral relativism and cultural relativism. Moral relativism and cultural relativism are closely connected. Moral relativism suggests that ethical standards are contingent upon individual perspectives, while cultural relativism expands this notion to encompass cultural norms and values. Cultural relativism posits that different cultures possess distinct moral codes that are valid within their own cultural context. The connection between the two arises from the recognition that moral values and judgments are often shaped by cultural upbringing and social influences. Cultural relativism emphasizes the importance of respecting and understanding diverse cultural perspectives when evaluating moral issues. Determinism. Determinism finds its roots in diverse domains. In religious contexts, the belief in a higher power or divine plan can suggest that events are predetermined. Physically, the laws of nature and causal chains are seen as governing the unfolding of events. Biological determinism posits that genetics and environmental factors shape human behavior and characteristics. Historical determinism suggests that societal developments are determined by a complex interplay of historical forces and events. Economic determinism argues that economic factors determine social structures and human behavior. Lastly, psychological determinism explores the influence of subconscious drives, conditioning, and external stimuli on human actions. Determinism exists to varying degrees. Fatalism represents the extreme view that all events are predetermined and inevitable, leaving no room for free will or personal agency. Hard determinism posits that every event, including human actions, is causally determined and lacks genuine freedom. Soft determinism, also known as compatibilism, suggests that while events are determined, individuals can still possess a degree of freedom within those constraints. It reconciles determinism with the concept of free will. In contrast to determinism, indeterminism argues for the existence of events that are not fully determined and are subject to chance or randomness. It challenges the notion of a strict causal chain governing all events. Existentialism, influenced by indeterminism, emphasizes human freedom and the ability to create meaning and shape one's own destiny. Existentialists assert that individuals are not determined by external forces but have the freedom to make authentic choices and take responsibility for their actions. Anti-determinism. Werner Heisenberg, a German physicist and Nobel laureate, argued in favor of the uncertainty principle, which goes against physical determinism. His uncertainty principle posits that there is a limit to the precision with which certain pairs of physical properties of a particle can be known simultaneously. The more you measure and try to pin down the specifics of one property, such as the place of the particle, the less precisely you can know other quantities, such as its speed. Moral determinism, on the other hand, is a philosophical position that suggests that moral choices and actions are predetermined by factors such as genetics, upbringing, and external influences. It argues that our moral decisions are ultimately determined by a combination of these factors, and therefore, free will and personal responsibility may be limited. Philosophical discussions have explored potential parallels between these concepts. Just as the uncertainty principle sets limits on our ability to measure properties, there may be limits on our ability to fully understand the causes of moral choices. In other words, there could be uncertainty or in the moral realm just as there is in the physical realm. For similar reasons, French philosopher Jean-Paul Sartre rejected determinism, because he felt that people have freedom over their actions.